When and how do we differentiate that? Is it just stress or is it something else that we actually need to look into?
Small signals, it's a warning sign. Sometimes we have like numbness of one side of body. It could be a sign of brain stroke.
When do we know that yes, this is the time that I have to go and consult a neurologist specifically?
Or any abnormal movement in body associated with some frothing or some bleeding from mouth, that could be seizure.
But is there any test that we can get done to prevent this?
In neurology, it's mostly a clinical diagnosis. Your brain especially, 75% of it is water.
Because of modern lifestyle and the screen timings, as you just said, the notifications and screens, how is it affecting our brain health?
It affects so many things. If you are having that longer screen time, you're not interacting with your parents, with your family members, with your friends even. So you don't get that emotional support, which is very important when you're, especially when you're a kid. You should have at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day.
If 8 hours is not possible. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Unmute Yourself. Today we are going to start this episode little differently. एक सवाल के साथ. दिन में कितनी बार हम अपने आप को ये कहते हैं, it's just stress. A headache, it's just stress. Little exhausted, it's just stress. And I'm forgetting something, oh, maybe it is just stress. But what if it is not just stress and some other issue? Yes, that's the challenge that we all are facing and we are just ignoring it or brushing it under the carpet. We all are having conversations around mental health nowadays, a lot I must say. But do we really know the neurological side to it? What exactly is going on inside our brain? To help us decode this, we have an expert with us today. She works in this area day in and day out. Yes, I'm talking about Dr. Seema Shahi, a neurologist at Marango Asia Hospital, Gurugram. Hi, Dr. Seema. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a huge pleasure for me too.
So my first question to you would be, what drew you towards this field and how does your work contribute towards the conversation around brain and mental health that's happening today?
So what drew me to this field is like very simple. When I was a kid, so my parents, as usual in India, they do that. You have to become a doctor like that, and that that was feeded inside me because since I was a kid, and that took me to this entrance exam and all, and I gave the exam. I was like, okay, I just have to crack an exam.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I can do that, and then that's how I entered. But then I realized like it's not only the pre-medical entrance exam.
Yes.
So I got this in MBBS and then I chose MD internal medicine because I was, like always very inquisitive.
Okay.
What is the diagnosis? How is it this? Like different diagnoses. So that draw my attention towards the internal medicine. And while I was doing internal medicine, so they have different, like in internal medicine, we have different specialities like cardiology, endocrinology, gastro, neurology.
Correct.
Then I got inclined towards neurology because there is one of my relative who is bedridden since very long and he had stroke.
Oh.
So that was one thing that I was as a kid also like, what has happened to him? What has happened to this uncle? So, and that was a stroke. So I want to do something in that field. That is one point. But as such, I feel that neurology is very interesting. Our brain is the most complicated organ.
It is.
And it is the most interesting organ and beautiful organ. So, and I'm a person who always wants to know the root cause of any issue. Be it lifetime issues or
go deeper.
Personal issues, professional things. I want to go deep, do the root cause analysis and then come up with the solution. And neurology is one such branch.
Yes.
I'll tell you, like it's very complicated.
It is.
But it is very simple when you go step by step into the cause and then come to the diagnosis and then the treatment.
Oh, wow.
So that's something which, excited me. It's very fascinating to make a, different diagnosis. Where is the localization? Is it in the brain, nerve, muscles, where? So yeah. And I think I completely align with that.
Oh, great. Now that you see it, okay, fine. So there was a variation. It's like, yes, it's a very complicated field, but it's a very beautiful field. It's a very simple field if you go step by step. So you have to follow the process.
Correct.
As simple as that.
Correct.
So now when we are talking about neurology and in my line of work, I come across 7 out of 10 people that I interact with. they complain of certain things on a daily basis, headache, fatigue, lack of focus, as we said, but they just brush it under the carpet. It's like it's normal. So how can we differentiate that it is just stress? Because it's like आज stress बहुत ज़्यादा था, office में ये हुआ वो हुआ, maybe I'll just take a medicine, Saradon, Naproxen, whatever that they take. Migraine है, so it's a self-diagnosis. So when and how do we differentiate that? Is it just stress or is it something else that we actually need to look into?
Yeah, so it's a nice question. Actually, we have in every different diagnosis, we have steps or associated symptoms which tells us, which gives us the signal that there is something wrong. It's not only the simple headache. Okay. We get like everyone is having nowadays, no? Like everyone is having headache. Yes. Even the kids are having.
Even the kids are.
But if that headache is occurring like repetitively, and so we go with the intensity and the impact of that headache.
Okay.
Let's say if we are taking headache, so we have to go with the severity. If it's very intense, and if it is sudden onset.
Okay.
So any headache which is sudden onset, which is very severe, which is a new kind of headache. Or if it is associated with severe vomiting or recurrent vomiting. Or sometimes you listen that there is loss of vision associated with the headache. So those things are very important to notice. We should not brush it under the carpet. So that is like, that can be signaling towards something very serious disease. Like it could be a sign of brain stroke.
Okay.
It could be a sign of brain hemorrhage, as we call in a layman language. It could be a sign of hemorrhage. It could be severe migraine. Okay. Migraine also has different categories, you know.
Yes.
So the mild migraine or migraine without aura. But if the migraine is with these symptoms, it's with the loss of vision or maybe some light spectrum things you can see. So those are very, very alarming things, and we should not ignore them. Like, because, you know, that small signal, it's a warning sign.
It's a warning.
So just go to your doctor, consult them. And if it is normal, then it's normal. But if it is signaling towards something serious, then we should not. We should not. Because, you know, the neuron once get damaged, like the brain once get damaged, it's irreversible. Especially in the adults.
Correct.
In kids, we have, you know, good neuroplasticity. So the recovery is good. But in adults, if there is damage or necrosis to the neurons, which we call the death of neuron, it's very difficult to regain or recover that neuron.
Wow. So it is important. Like, as you said, if it is recurring, it is sharp, it is intense. And if the vomiting is accompanied with vomiting and vision loss. Or change in vision or number. What
any blurring of vision, or if you see like sometimes we have like numbness of one side of body, it could be a sign of brain stroke.
Oh, okay.
If there is, you know, paralysis of like both the limbs get numb or both the upper hand gets numb. So it could be, you know, there is something internal inside the brain which is compressing some nerves which are causing those damages.
Okay. So OTC medicines are a complete no-no. You need to consult your doctor and then proceed with the tests and all. Because nowadays Google is everything. Everybody is like, okay, I'm having Google, and I think let's not go into that part, because it shows you the worst case scenario every single time, be it a headache, a toothache, or anything.
Yeah.
When we talk about headaches and all, there is another term that has come into play, which is brain fog. And we are seeing this in women and working professionals as well. Now, what happens is when this brain fog is there, it leads to self-doubt, right? That is something wrong with me. So what exactly is brain fog? And is it normal with everyone, or do we really need to pay attention there as well?
So brain fog, as we say, it's very layman term. Brain fog is like, you know, when your cognitive processing, like the processing of brain gets slow. It could be because of n number of reasons, right? It could be because of fatigue. It could be because of lack of sleep. If you haven't slept for like days, you can have those, you know, confusional thing, or you can be slow in your day-to-day activities. It could be because of longer screen time.
That is one important.
That's very important. Yes. And it could be because of a lot of mental stress. Like, you know, you are just doing multitasking. You don't recognize that. You think that, okay, like I'm doing good, like, but you know, like the efficiency, we say, decreases. So And that you realize like there is something wrong. I'm very slow today. I'm not feeling good. Or there's some confusion.
Correct.
You get irritable. You're slow in everything. So that is brain
That is
fog.
brain
We
fog.
call it brain fog. But if that fog is associated with some, severe confusion,
Mhm.
and especially if that is sudden onset confusion, or if you see that is associated with some fever, vomiting, or severe headache, loss of consciousness, then obviously it's a sign, it's a signal to us, brain signal to us that we should not delay it and go to your nearest possible hospital as soon as possible.
Now, when we talk about symptoms, right, we don't tend to ignore symptoms because we don't care. It is like we don't want to overreact, right? Maybe because वो upbringing ऐसी है कि हर छोटी छोटी बातों पे react नहीं करते, हर छोटी चीज पे you don't go to a doctor. So that is one area when we talk about the symptoms. So when do we know, and this is not just related to brain, but all the nervous system. When do we know that, yes, this is the time that I have to go and consult a neurologist specifically?
Okay. So in neurology, we deal with multiple things. Like we deal with the brain, we deal with the spine, we deal with all the nerves, like all the cranial nerves, we say, the nerves which arise from the brain,
Yeah,
and the spinal nerves which
Yes,
arise
connected.
goes down.
correct.
So all these nerves, so they have very specific localization in brain. The center is in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you are having any symptom which is like new onset, if you're feeling new onset numbness in your body anywhere, and that is, if that is especially sudden onset, so sudden onset numbness or sudden onset weakness of one limb of your body or maybe one side of your body, so that is something very alarming. That could be stroke.
Oh,
If you see anything which is like sudden onset abnormal body movements, like abnormal movements, uprolling of eyes, and some frothing from your mouth, and you lose your consciousness. So these symptoms like frothing, losing consciousness, sudden onset fainting, or sudden onset dizziness even.
okay.
So anything which is sudden onset.
Sudden onset.
So it's very precise. Sudden is like within seconds or minutes. So if you see anything which is sudden onset, that is very alarming. You should never ever ignore that.
Okay.
So neurology, sudden onset is like, those are the things which we can save if you come to the hospital within time period.
Okay.
Like stroke, if we get ischemic stroke within like 4 or 4.5 hours of time period, we can thrombolize and dissolve that clot. And that,
Okay.
saves your stroke is like when you get one side of paralysis of body or maybe some facial damage, sudden onset. If we give the medicine on time, like within that time window period, we call it a window period. If we give that dissolution medication within window period, we can save the life, like long mobility. Otherwise, you could be bedridden or dependent on bed for years, or maybe who knows, like vegetative state, you can go into vegetative state. So those things, anything which is sudden onset, anything which is very new and very severe in intensity, like headache also.
Headache.
New onset headache, very severe after the age of 40. It's never ever ignore that. Any sudden onset abnormal movement in body, or any abnormal movement in body associated with some frothing or some bleeding from mouth, that could be seizure.
Oh, yes. That
Epilepsy
needs to be kept in mind.
signs. So
Epilepsy,
we
correct.
should not ignore that. Any sudden numbness, it could be, we call it GBS.
Okay.
Your body, very acutely goes into paralysis. It starts with the lower limb, goes to the trunk, upper limb, and then your whole body. You cannot move, you cannot say, you cannot blink even your eyes.
Okay.
So those things, and that happens within like few hours sometimes. So anything which is sudden onset, I would say you should not ignore it. Just go to the doctor. If it is a normal thing, then it's normal. But sometimes, especially in the older age group and in the kids, we ignore those things. We are like,
Yes.
okay, it might be just because of fatigue, or who knows, maybe let's go tomorrow. And that,
Yes.
that
Release out on the time. Yes.
that window
That's
we are
important.
losing, and we are losing neuron, we are losing our brain.
Now, when we are talking about these kind of symptoms, that is something sudden, or do we have any kind of preventive tests? Like, we are very much aware of the routine tests, the CBC, LFT, KFT, sugar, thyroid. We know that. And we know after 40, once a year, you need to get these tests done. But is there any test that we can get done to prevent this? Because we are not aware of it.
Yeah. So I would say, unfortunately, in neurology, it's mostly a clinical diagnosis. So when you're having these symptoms, you go to the doctor, we examine, you take a good history, we examine you, and then we advise the test. So we
Okay.
have different imaging like CT scan, MRIs, EEG
Mhm.
for brain activities, and all the different other blood tests. But we cannot just randomly write that. There is nothing like prophylactic which we can.
हाँ, because when we talk about preventive measures, so it's like कि बाकी सब हो गया, अल्ट्रासाउंड हो गया, एक्सरे हो गया, अच्छा मैं सीटी करा लेती हूँ या एमआरआई करा लेती हूँ, तो everybody is like, are you nuts? Why do you need to get that done?
Yeah.
Symptoms, there are no symptoms. But then in this case, when there is something very sudden, it's like you don't have time at that point of time. So can we prevent it, or at least maybe once in 2 years or 3 years we can just test, or if not a medical test, anything at home that we can try doing, maybe some exercises, or if I'm able to do this, that means my nervous system is working well. Something of that sort. Do we have any of that?
So not towards the investigation side,
Mm-hmm.
but if we talk about taking care of brain health or neural system or nervous system health, I think it's the most important thing is taking regular sleep. Your sleep hygiene should be good.
Yes.
You should have at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day.
Correct.
Like when we sleep, our body or mind goes in restoration mode.
Hmm.
So we are just investing our brain every second. We are not giving any, truly nowadays, especially when with these screens,
no break, no downtime.
we don't give that rest.
Yes.
So the sleep is the best, restoration or energy conserving thing. During sleep, we conserve the energy. Memory is again restored.
Hmm.
So nowadays everybody is having this you ask that brain fog, slowness in processing, in memory. So that when you sleep properly, that get restored, your memory.
Okay.
So it's very important for your memory, for your energy preservation, the sleep hours and the good sleep hygiene. It's not only the sleep hours, it's the quality of sleep.
The quality of sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when we read books by great leaders, business tycoons, it's like, okay, they used to sleep only for 4 hours or 5 hours. And look where they are. It's like 5 a.m. club or waking up at Brahma Muhurat and then doing it. So waking up is emphasized on what time are you sleeping. That's not considered. 4 hours, 5 hours is like, and students nowadays, they say that yes, we study at night because it's so peaceful. We are able to focus more. And they are missing out the 10 to 2 a.m. timeline, which is the most important time for sleep. So these things are like, how do you make them understand that 7 to 8 hours is a must? Like if I just talk about myself, my elder one is in 12th now. If I tell him you have to sleep for 8 hours, he'll say, when am I going to study? Right? With all the classes, school, coaching and all. So then what to do? Like if 8 hours is not possible, then
I think it doesn't matter howsoever busy we are. If we are sleeping for 6 to 8 hours, it's not fixed 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours
that's
of sleep.
manageable, I guess.
So that we can achieve that, and everybody can do that. I'm telling you, it's just an excuse that we have to study for so long. It's only the discipline which is needed.
Exactly.
So you have to cut down your screen time. You have to cut down your phones.
That's difficult.
Leave your phone don't keep it on the bedside.
Don't give it up.
Keep it somewhere else.
Yes.
2 hours before your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Those blue lights, it affects your sleep.
Yes.
And then you feel like I'm not getting sleep.
Hmm.
And then you come out again. And then you waste your another 1 hour.
Yes, exactly.
So that is very important. So sleep, I don't get that. I don't buy that you don't get time to sleep. It is just that you have to manage and you have to keep your discipline. Like if you decide something to finish in like an hour, do it. I know it's very difficult.
But it is doable. You just
is.
have to prioritize that. Yes,
Correct.
these are the things that I have to give priority in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
So
think
you can like the circadian rhythm of our body is like that. We have to sleep at night because the melatonin is secreted during that time. So that's how our bodies, it's formed in that way that if you go along with the nature, with the flow, you will be, giving like your efficiency will improve. So
yes.
the work which you are taking like maybe 4 hours, you'll get it done in 2 hours. So sleep is very
important.
Nutrition is also. I would say for the neurology,
yes.
nutrition for your nerves, for your brains, take good amount of, liquids. Nowadays, like summers are coming. take good food like watermelon, take citrus fruits, take
Yes.
your body contains like 75,
70%.
your brain especially, 75% of it is water. So you have to replenish that. So good nutrition, good sleep, good diet, take plenty of water, like 3 to 4 liters of water every day. And exercise.
And exercise. So it's like sleep, physical activity, and nutrition.
Yes.
I think these three are the areas that we need to focus on.
And then you just see yourself, like you will be, flourishing everywhere.
But the modern lifestyle that we see today, because of modern lifestyle and the screen timings, as you just said, the notifications and screens, how is it affecting our brain health?
Like I see in my OPD, like patients are like, before, it never used to happen, like even the kids nowadays, every kid. In US, it's a mandatory that before 12 years, they have to get the depression screening done. So can you imagine that, like less than 12 years of kids and they are having those depression symptoms? In India itself, like I see like every day, like, kids are they're saying like, oh man, I'm just having depression.
There was an article yesterday that on mental health helpline, grade 6 to grade 12, the maximum is grade 6 to grade 8 kids are actually calling on that helpline. Grade 6 is 12 years old.
Imagine why.
Yeah.
It's all because they are on, like it affects so many things. If you are having that longer screen time, you're not interacting with your parents, with your family members, with your friends even.
Correct.
So you don't get that emotional support, which is very important when you're, especially when you're a kid.
Yes.
So that is, you are deficient of those things. And I feel that when I talk to kids, like many of our patients we just don't deal with only neurons and brain. It's more, many of our patients are dealing with the brain as a mental issues.
Okay.
Like irritability, low concentration, low mood, and then feel like crying. So these are all signs of minor to major depressions. And this is happening because of longer screen time. One, that is very important. That is depriving you from your, family members, relatives, friends. And then your screen timing is affecting your sleep.
Correct.
Your memory is
very
not
important. Yeah.
You are not restoring your memory, not consolidating. So sleep and the familial issues. And then you think that your parents are not taking care of you properly. They are not paying attention on you, which is like
this generation
opposite.
Especially. They think this generation.
Like I see, the kids are very much attention seeker nowadays, and they want to be taken care of. But when you ask them to do something, they'll be like, you are just interfering in my freedom.
Exactly.
Which is like, I see these things like, these are not there before. So,
these are not there. We have not said anything of that sort to our parents. Okay, freedom, okay. Say that again. They would have said.
So that is like, that's a difference in like a decade ago. Definitely, when we were in the college, we were like, no, we could never say that no. Like, sona hai abhi to sona hai. No, you have to eat this only, so you have to.
Yeah.
We cannot say like, no, mama, I just want this only. And
no, there were no options. Whatever is cooked, everybody is going to eat that only. That's it. So that's where I think discipline started from.
Correct.
Right? So we knew, okay, these are the things. And I think that's the reason that our generation has been so resilient.
Correct.
The generation now that we have, they are not resilient at all. And then we say, okay, fine, Gen Z has their challenges. They are smart. They are super smart. Right? But then there are pros and cons with every generation. Our generation had ours. Prior to us, they also had theirs. So, but yes, as you said, modern lifestyle and screen is definitely affecting our brain health in a negative manner. So as women, we multitask a lot, right? I'm thinking about 10 things, what all I can do at this moment. And I'm sure you also would be going through the same. So I just wanted to ask that, does female brain respond differently to stress and fatigue as compared to men?
I would say, yes, definitely. So actually, we have in females, there are different hormones, especially the estrogen, progesterone. So there is one part like stress and fatigue, and the other part is like during these hormonal changes, like especially when you are going through your menstrual period, or when you're going through your puberty, when you're going through your pregnancy or menopause. So these are the especially 3 phases, no? The menstrual period, the pregnancy area, and then menopausal, perimenopausal area. So we have a lot of changes in the estrogen and progesterone ratio. So that ratio get disturbed, and that affects our brain. Okay, so these are the two specific hormones related to females. So they affect our brain significantly. Like for migraine, we say it's more common in females. And why? Because in females, during that migraine, when we these estrogen and progesterone levels get imbalanced, or their ratio is not appropriate, we get severe episodes of migraine. So there is one term which is called perimenstrual migraine. Okay, so especially during menstrual period, some of the females get severe headache. These are perimenstrual migraines, and that is because of those imbalances.
This I'm hearing for the first time.
Yes, so these hormones, like, they play a significant role, and specifically this migraine is because of that imbalance. So yes, definitely it's different, especially. And then during pregnancy, there are diseases which flare up in pregnancy, and there are other diseases which are like, which stay stable, and which there are diseases which improves during pregnancy. So like, for example, seizures or epilepsy. If any patient is having epilepsy, their seizure can aggravate during pregnancy. Again, because of these hormonal imbalances, our body needs more of anti-seizure medication, because the levels decreases. Every medicine has a drug level in our body, and that appropriate drug level has to be maintained to act it to have a better efficiency and the best efficacy of the drug or medication. So when there is a pregnancy, there's a lot of volume change in our body. So that excretion part or the removal of the drug also increases. So at that time, we need to, as soon as we know that the patient is pregnant, we, monitor those drug levels, and we increase or decrease the drug levels accordingly. Most of the times, we need to increase the anti-seizure medications. There are a few specific drugs which need to be increased because their levels decreases, and then you can precipitate and you can have seizure during pregnancy. So that is very important. That is why it's said that get a better control of seizure and then get pregnant. Or if you are pregnant, as soon as you get to know this thing, go to your doctor and just try to get the medications optimized, right? Then third area is the perimenstrual area. Then also you have these estrogen progesterone imbalance.
Yes.
FSH levels increases, estrogen decreases, and there are multiple, things going on in the body. At that time also you can have severe like headaches, or you can have, it's a coagulative state. So in pregnancy also, estrogen increases the blood thickening.
Okay.
So sometimes because of the pregnancy, you get that, blood clots in your body. In any area of body you can get that, but in the brain you can get CVT, which is called cortical venous thrombosis. It is because of pregnancy you have that increased tendency of clotting of blood.
Okay.
So that can lead to stroke. So very severe things can happen in pregnancy, because sometimes we have cancer, and that increases the tendency of clotting in body. Similar ways, in pregnancy also, the tendency of clotting increases. In females, there are multiple other diseases in neurology, which are very common. Apla syndromes and all those things are very common in females, and they are severe diseases. You can get paralyzed, you can go in coma, you can have like a number of things.
So while we are pregnant, we go through all the routine tests in pregnancy. And in general also, we all are very much aware of all the routine tests like CBC, LFT, KFT and everything. But when we talk about our nervous system, is there any particular test or a series of tests that one can get done just as a preventive measure?
So there is nothing like preventive thing, but in pregnancy as such, so that is why we have these prenatal checkups, antenatal checkups, and then natal and then postnatal checkups. So during antenatal checkups, we go through like all the like clinical history, then examination, but still you can have the new onset seizure during pregnancy or during the last trimester of pregnancy. There are diseases which happens in which you can have seizure, like eclampsia and all those things. So that is dealt when it is when it happens. We cannot do anything. But we know this thing that pregnancy is a procoagulant. Procoagulant, like the thickening of blood increases, the tendency increases. So we are careful. And if any patient or any female who is having any such disorder where there is increased tendency of coagulation, or there are different syndromes which can, which you can diagnose before also. So if that is there, then we have to change the medication. We have to start blood thinners. So it is always, you cannot do anything beforehand, but it's just that you should go to your doctor when you are pregnant, when you are planning your pregnancy. Actually, when you are having epilepsy or thing, you should go to the doctor when you're planning your pregnancy. So before pregnancy, that is very important, because your seizures, if you are epilepsy, your seizures should be controlled before you start your pregnancy. And that's when you get the best outcome.
So, what everyday habits are silently affecting our brain health? And what are the 3 steps that we should start doing right now?
So these are very small little things, like daily, as I said, the daily sleep patterns. You have to monitor your sleep patterns, whether you are sleeping properly or not, whether you are having good quality of sleep or not. Not only sleep hours, it's the good quality of sleep. If you are breaking up during the sleep, you are getting up like multiple times during night, so that is not appropriate sleep. So good sleep, good nutrition, as I said, that for any disease, like for the cardiac patients also, so in neurology there's nothing specific, but if you are having good diet, like diet high in protein, appropriate amounts of carbs, less in fat, less in cholesterol, those diets, Mediterranean diets, they are very helpful. If you can do, I would say meditation helps a lot. It calms your mind, body, everything, so that and that's when you increase your efficiency. I have seen practically with myself that if you, before starting anything, if you just meditate for 1 minute, meditation is like you just go in your silence and take a deep breath. That is what I call and then start. So start with attention. I think we need to pay attention to everything. So just cool down your body. So these are the normal things, like which we do regularly, but we don't pay attention, like especially the females. Like we are doing like this also, oh, ghar bhi jana hai, and then I have to take care of my kids, I have to take care of my profession, I have to write the articles, I have to draw this, I have to pursue my hobbies too. So we are jumping, we are truly not giving rest to our mind anytime.
So most of the times we don't delay taking an action because we don't care. We delay it because it should not sound like we are overreacting and it's just a headache, it's just a cramp, it will go away. So what are the red flag brain symptoms that one should never ignore, not even once?
Related to neurology, I would say, especially, as I said, like anything which is sudden onset. Any headache which is sudden onset, new onset, any new headache, like you're having mild or moderate headache often and since like years. But if you are, having a headache which is like very new in character, like very pulsating, very throbbing, you have never ever experienced that kind of headache, then immediately rush to a hospital. Anything which is like any abnormal movement, as I said, or any paralysis towards one side of body, especially older age group people, we say that, okay, it might be something, or any facial deviation at one side, loss of speech, any change in speech. So any symptom which is very abnormal and sudden onset.
So we are underlining the sudden onset.
Sudden onset.
And the severity.
Severity,
if headache is there and a very throbbing one, as you said.
Yeah, headache, any new onset, sudden onset headache, which is like, thunderclap type, like, you just blasting and which started suddenly. So in neurology, anything which is sudden onset and very severe in intensity. But like if you're having facial deviation, you don't get that severity. So that is also we ignored, like especially in old age, I have seen that the grandparents which are there and they're lying on the bed, and sometimes you think, okay, he might be just having some weakness, maybe because of the older age. But no, we should not ignore that. Even the slight slurring of speech, slight numbness in the hand, which is sudden onset, not the usual ongoing numbness or usual ongoing weakness. anything which is certain answer.
Taking care of everyone in their family except themselves. So, what would be that one message you would want to give out to our audience that they should start taking care of their brain and overall health?
I would say for females, we don't prioritize ourselves. The first thing, prioritize yourself, your health. Because I think it's important to take care of the family, to the kids, the profession, but you can only take care of them if you are happy and you are, preserved. So don't ever ignore yourself. Take care of your health and everything, and then you see the results. Because, like we say in our dharma also, like whatever we have, we can only give those things. So if we are happy, we are healthy, we can make a surrounding atmosphere or any like our family members, our relatives, we can make them happy and healthier. So don't ever keep yourself at the bottom list. I would say that, and especially in India, we do that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Seema, for sharing such valuable insights with us today. And to everyone out there, whoever is listening to this conversation, like our body talks to us, our brain also talks to us, maybe softly. Just a headache, just a little stress, these are the signals that our body is giving to us. So next time when you're just about to say it's just stress, pause and just listen to yourself. Is it really only stress, or is our brain actually asking for help? Thank you for joining us. I'll see you in our next episode coming very soon. Till next time, unmute yourself and stay real to what matters to you most. Bye-bye. Take care.